North Korea.
조선민주주의 인민공화국.
If you were born and grew up in North Korea, you were installed with a North Korean operating system. In addition to language, you learnt from an early age that your country's leader, Kim Jong-il, demands absolute obedience and worship. You learned from kindergarten age to think that Western ideology is dangerous and bad for people. And even if your own country is a totalitarian dictatorship, you have learned that it is still the best place to live. Converting to Christianity or fleeing the country carries a death sentence. Heaven's Gate was an American UFO cult led by Marshall Applewhite, who believed that aliens from outer space would bring peace and a new home on an alien planet to members of the cult. All members joined the cult as adults and absorbed the Heaven's Gate operating system into their brains. They were just ordinary, intelligent people. They really believed that they had found the truth and that all other people were wrong. Members called each other brothers and sisters. They were forbidden to work for anyone other than the cult. In general, members had few outside contacts, as Applewhite ordered them to cut off contact with everyone they knew. Applewhite and 38 Heaven's Gate members committed suicide in 1997. The Latter-day Saints. The Mormons are especially known for their missionary work, genealogy, and their own sacred writings. By becoming or joining a Mormon, you adopt their operating system. This includes different beliefs, temple rituals, baptisms for the dead, and a whole way of life. Every Mormon sincerely believes he is right. They call their members brothers and sisters. Their apostles can receive announcements from the spirit world at any time. Every Mormon believes unconditionally that they have the truth. No other alternative is possible from their operating system. They believe that Jesus is Jehovah, Adam is the archangel, and Jesus visited ancient America. People's Temple. The People's Temple was an American cult led by Jim Jones. If you adopted the People's Temple operating system, it could well seal your destiny. In the 1970s, the movement tried to prevent members from resigning. Jones saw the US government, the press, and the apostates as enemies seeking to destroy the movement. Jones and his followers fled to the jungles of Guyana, where he sought to create a kind of utopia, of which he was the leader. Life in Jonestown included hard work and lessons in socialism. Eventually, almost all 900 members killed themselves or were killed in the jungles of Guyana in 1978. Scientology is perhaps best known for its personality tests. It is based on a doctrine developed by Ron Hubbard in the 1940s called Dianetics. It seeks to correct people's problems through personal counseling. Scientologists believe that man is essentially an immortal spirit being, a thetan, who is restored to a higher state in sessions called auditing. Scientology has its own theology, and its members say that they receive a meaningful spiritual life from the church. The Church of Scientology has a strong negative attitude towards psychiatrists and psychologists. Scientologists themselves see the outside world as persecuting their religion. Scientologists also seek to silence their critics by, among other things, spreading unfavorable information and allegations about them in public, and thus ruining the reputation of their critics.
Get down.
As a religion, Jehovah's Witnesses emphasize, in the current era, the practical application of their interpretation of the Bible and the status of their organization as the only true religion. They believe that all political systems and all other religions are under Satan's control and will be destroyed in the near future. If you grow up as a child or become a Jehovah's Witness as an adult, you are expected to fully adopt their operating system. In practice, this means that once you join, there is no going back to your former way of life. You will carry for the rest of your life the traumas, teachings, and beliefs that the organization has implanted in you. This is done through a strong mind control. The inner world of Jehovah's Witnesses is controlled by constant fear and threats. It is indeed a dangerous cult. What makes it dangerous is that the Jehovah's Witnesses appear to be a very harmless religion. Now that all this has been said, it is time to turn our attention to the smoking gun itself. Not to a smoking gun. Smoking gun. No. What do you need an organization for? Remember, you dedicate yourself not to a work or to a cause, or even to an organization, but to God Himself. A Christian's dedication is to Jehovah, not to a human, a work, or an organization. Remember, too, that you have made a dedication to Jehovah God Himself, not to a work, a cause, other humans, or an organization. So you dedicate not to this or any other organization. That's a fact. At this point, the mind control kicks in. Even if you do not dedicate yourself to an organization, you still give it full opportunity to define your relationship with God. For example, if you leave an organization or get removed from it, it makes you believe that your relationship with God is broken. In reality, no organization or any other human being can break the relationship between you and God. Only you can do it yourself if you choose so. It is only a relationship between you and God. Can you get a grip on this concept? If you have left the organization, elders and other brothers and sisters will keep asking you to come back to Jehovah. But you have not left God. You have only left this imperfect, man-made organization. The smoking gun is exactly this. God doesn't need an organization for anything. If you try to explain this to Jehovah's Witnesses, their operating system will immediately stop their thoughts in their tracks. But hey, God has always had an organization they try to defend. Wrong. God has never had an organization. He has always dealt with individuals. I will end this video with a short experience of one of the elders, who I appreciated very much, when I was still involved in the organization myself. He wanted to talk to me and find out the reason why I left the organization. So I explained to him that it was only doctrinal issues that I was leaving the organization for. I had everything going well in the organization. I had no disagreements with anyone. I had no wrongdoings or hidden sins on my conscience that made me want to leave. The reason was simply these unbiblical teachings of the organization. After a few weeks, he called me. He had been thinking about our conversation and now wanted to give his analysis of our conversation and the reasons why he thought I had left. So he clearly didn't accept my reason for leaving, which I told him honestly. He thinks I made the wrong decision when I left. He said that my problems were caused by my demands for the organization to be infallible. In his view, I should not demand that an organization be infallible in doctrinal matters. I should have just stayed with the organization and waited for Jehovah to correct the erroneous views when the time was right. At the end of the call, he wished me warmly to come back to Jehovah. I realized that my explanations had no real impact on him. We live in two completely different worlds. His thoughts are in the box, mine are outside it. A person who has had the operating system of the organization running in his brain all his life is completely incapable of thinking in any other way. I felt sad for this elder, whom I had so much appreciated at times. I found that his thoughts worked exactly like the box thoughts of anyone in a cult. That's why he basically has no decision-making power and no ideas of his own, even though he thinks he does because of the operating system of the organization. I let him make his point in peace, and I kept the conversation proper until the end. Here is a great practical example of how the mind of a person in mind control works. The reasoning is this: because the men who run the organization are imperfect and make mistakes, the organization is imperfect and makes mistakes. So there is no point in leaving an organization just because it makes mistakes in doctrinal matters. Does anyone else notice what's wrong with this logic? I'm deliberately cutting it a bit short now to make sure I get my point straight. So it makes no sense to leave the dictatorial government in North Korea because it is making mistakes. It makes no sense to leave the Heaven's Gate cult because it makes mistakes. It makes no sense to leave the Church of Latter-day Saints because it makes mistakes. It makes no sense to leave the People's Temple because it makes mistakes. It makes no sense to leave the Church of Scientology because it makes mistakes. Nor is it wise to leave the Jehovah's Witnesses organization because it makes mistakes. None of these organizations is perfect. They all make mistakes in doctrinal matters. But if no unbiblical misconception is a good reason to leave an organization, then you really have no reason to leave any organization to which you happen to be a member. You have no rational reason to leave because all rational reasons to leave have been taken away from you. If the organization you belong to is guilty of this kind of manipulation, explanation, and blame, it's time for you to run. If the organization you belong to has no real reason to hold you, manipulate you, and control your thoughts and your life, it is without doubt a harmful organization. Then the operating system running in your mind is contaminated and dangerous. By destroying such an operating system, you allow the truth to set you free. That's all I've got now. Just try to take care.